Hey guys, Anders here with another video. Today we got to test the new Awakening kit for Drakania. There is a lot to go over since what was leaked and what is on the test server are different. I've had about 3 hours or so to play around with the class Awakening, done some PvP, some PvE, but there's still a lot of work to do before I'm able to make a guide for you. So take this as a sort of first impressions video of what I think of the class so far. Spoilers, I think she's pretty good. So let's start with her main Awakening skills. Her E-buff, Burning Resolve, has changed from the leak tooltip. She no longer has the crit damage increase. Instead, she has AP, crit rate, attack speed, and accuracy bonuses. That's really good still, like incredibly good. But she also loses the added legacy effect, which I briefly mentioned during my previous video. This was an effect that gave you a 5% heal or 3 seconds of super armor every time you use legacy while in your E-buff duration. So legacy is our identity skill that swaps us from Dragonblood form to Hexeblood form. On this test server build, we no longer have that added effect of 5% healing or 3 seconds of super armor on legacy. In fact, legacy has changed quite a bit. It can be activated by using spacebar instead of E after any skill, or by simply using Shift E anytime you want. We don't actually need to use this skill, however, to swap forms. Different skills in each form are actually able to change you from one to the other, so it's really easy to link and swap back and forth as you combo. Of course, legacy still has a use because it does give you that frontal guard every 4 seconds on use, which is not something to be overlooked. We now also have passive effects depending on which form we're in. So when we're in Hexeblood form, we have the 10% attack speed bonus all the time. When we have the Dragonblood form active, we have an additional 15 AP. These buffs also last an hour and refresh whenever you swap forms, so you're always going to have at least one of these buffs active. Impale is our grapple skill. Yes, the dreaded grab, not ranged grab. Pretty standard. At least for my testing, the damage wasn't as high as I was expecting. The radius for the grab also seems to be fairly tight, but honestly, we're testing on fairly high ping servers, at least for me, so that could be a factor. Usually PvP stuff we don't take too seriously on test server until it gets to live servers, because for whatever reason, the damage in PvP, at least in test server, never is one-to-one with live servers. Now, Flow Dragonflight got even better than the leaks. You now have immune damage for 2 seconds when you use it, sort of like Lon's immune damage when you Nimbus, but for 2 seconds, so nowhere near as long. But the flying is awesome. They did a really good job with the effect. The stamina consumption isn't terribly high for how much movement you do get. You're also in super armor, so you have some protection, and you can engage with a few skills from your Awakening kit, which is nice as well. Fate Beckons got some changes. We no longer have super armor, but instead we have CC, and we have the 50% BSR on this skill, which gives it a lot more damage, and an iframe into super armor effect, a really strong BSR. The movement distance is nice on its own as well. Now, before we move on to our Hexeblood and Dragonblood skills, let's talk a bit about movement. So Dragon Walk from your pre-awakening and Refraction from your pre-awakening, they both work in your Awakening stance. They keep you in Awakening, and you can also link Marthanen's Wings and stay in Awakening. So Refraction in particular, we want to talk about because it's a lot different. You kind of flank around your target in a hook pattern. It's super smooth, but the big thing we lose is the lingering iframe in Awakening. So we still have that lingering iframe if we use Refraction in pre-awakening, but if you use it in Awakening, we don't have that lingering iframe. Kind of a big deal, but the animation is fairly quick, and we have some iframe in other skills on the Awakening kit, so I think it's a fair trade. Dragon Walk is also pretty smooth, works pretty much the same way, and Marthanen's Wings works pretty much the same way as well. Now, Hexeblood skills, you'll notice Hexeblood is now red icons instead of blue from the leaked tooltips, which kind of threw me off for a while there. In the leaks, we also saw that Hexeblood had little protection, little AoE, quick animations. On this test build, it's fairly similar, though we have some more protection now and 1 or 2 skills with decent AoE. In fact, every skill in Hexeblood, apart from those AoE skills, can be spammed on cooldown. Let's start with tip of the scale, quick animation, good damage. Stiffness, knockdown, we still have that accuracy buff, and now we have the added damage over time effects, which is going to be a theme throughout the Hexeblood skills. Notice that the accuracy buff is still there, but we've lost a lot of buffs throughout the kit. No longer do we have the 10% attack speed buff. That's now just a passive on Hexeblood, and no longer do we have the 16 AP buff. Now that's a Dragonblood passive when you're in Dragonblood form. Now, typical skill also has a bond that adds frontal guard, which is a decent choice seeing as this skill does have some movement. movement. Spiteful Soul has forward guard, is a quick, decent damage skill, regens health, and deals some damage over time debuffs. It says you have to use Shift R&B to activate the skill, but you actually can just hold down R&B to use the skill normally. The bond for this skill adds stiffness on the third hit. Not a really great bond choice in my opinion. Sundering Roar deals very good damage, a stun CC, damage over time debuffs. It's a nice skill that is quick to cast but also unprotected. If you want, you can use the bond to get some super armor on the skill, which is not that bad. Crackling Flame may seem kinda terrible just by looking at it, but it's actually a great cancel skill. You can cancel almost every Hexeblood skill with this one skill, so not a bad little skill for what it's meant to do. Very quick animation. Savage Decree has good damage, floating CC, damage over time debuffs, and a quick animation. It's a nice skill overall. Its flow, Concealed Claw, does some very good damage but can be linked with a few other skills in the kit. Down Smash as well on it. This is one of those skills that can be used from the quick slot by itself to change you from Dragonblood to Hexeblood form, which I like. Aerial Burst, however, is an even better skill. It's such a good skill. Nice AoE, very good damage, super armor, DP debuff, only missing down attack on a base, but we have Obliterate Flow for that, which changes the skill into a more damaging skill with a down attack. It's nice. The difference is the AoE changes and you also get a second hit when you use the Obliterate Flow. You can also use this skill from Dragonblood form to change into Hexeblood form. An amazing skill overall. Storm Piercer is another good damaging skill, damage over time debuff. You get that health regen, our 10% BSR as well, which adds a knockdown on just not the third hit but all hits. It kind of basically consolidates the skill into one slash instead of multiple. Tectonic Slam is another great skill that is also one of our 100% BSR skills. Now you might be thinking, what do you mean one of our 100% BSR skills? Awakening has two 100% BSR skills, one in Hexeblood and one in Dragonblood. They're both Tectonic Slam, but they have different inputs. They're both really cool, but this one in Hexeblood gives us a frontal AoE. We'll see the second one once we get into more Dragonblood skills, but Tectonic Slam alone without the BSR has good damage, evasion debuff, floating CC movement, great skill that also allows us to transition from Dragonblood to Hexeblood. I really like this skill. And finally, Storm Maul, my favorite skill in the Hexeblood tree. We get forward movement, iframe into super armor attack, decent damage, and guess what? We can cancel the attack animation, so if you want to use it for just forward iframe movement, we can. 7-second cooldown is nice too, so we can use it regularly. You can also use the skill while you're in Dragon Flight, and it also swaps us to Hexeblood form from Dragonblood form. Such a good skill. Definitely one of my favorite ones in the kit. Now, Dragonblood skills, blue icons this time, not red for whatever reason, they swapped them. Tip of the skill, the Dragonblood version is our 25% BSR, does good damage, has a knockdown on the second hit. The BSR gives us more damage and a knockdown on the hit, plus evasion shred and larger AoE. Unprotected though. Spiteful Soul, Dragonblood version, has super armor and does decent damage. You can cancel into the skill from a few others as well. You can choose to use the Flow, Cloud Strife from this skill. The Flow does a lot of damage and has down smash and is decently quick but no protection. Sundering Roar. Now here is the big skill, the Dragon Breath skill from the trailer. Here's kind of where the leaks baited us a bit. It's changed a lot. We deal less hits, but more base damage. So what that means is we do about the same amount of damage in PvP, but 12% less damage in PvE. Now on top of that, our cooldown is now 20 seconds instead of 13 seconds from the leak, and we no longer have down attack modifier. We still have the slows, which is nice, but the skill will do a lot less damage overall. Now, despite this, in my testing, this thing shreds in PvE. The problem is the windup is super armor into forward guard on the attack, so you kind of want to dash with Dragon Walk or Refraction before using this skill to cancel the windup and go straight into the attack and make it quicker. We also now have tier 3 add-ons on this skill because the cooldown is so long. Now, Extinction is the flow. It is now a forward guard skill instead of super armor from the leaks, so an improvement for PvE, but no more down attack. It does about 35% more damage at base. The nice thing is you can also use this skill from the quick slot to transition from Hexeblood to Dragonblood, or just use it by itself, since Sundering Roar will most likely be on cooldown once this goes back up. So it's a good skill overall. I like it a lot. Crackling Flame acts much the same way as its Hexeblood version, but with a knockdown and slower animation. Tectonic Slam is our second 100% BSR skill. This one is a little slower than the Hexeblood version, but it dashes us forward with a strike at the end. Now the base skill has super armor, good damage, and allows us to swap forms. I like that. Savage Decree in Dragonblood is also super armor, good damage, and has a DP debuff. It can also be cancelled from Tectonic Slam. In fact, you can actually use Tectonic Slam into Savage Decree into Spiteful Soul, all in Dragonblood form, and you'll have a nice, smooth, protected link of those 3 skills. Storm Piercer is a stun CC on the first hit. You can cancel into the skill, much like others, and the damage is okay. Doombringer, our 200% BSR skill, is awesome. The base skill gives us super armor into iframe, while in the air into super armor on the slam. Damage is good, and it has a tier 3 add-on for a 10-second skill, so not bad. You can also swap from Hexeblood to Dragonblood by using this skill, my favorite skill in the whole Dragonblood tree by far. Now before we continue, let's talk about our bond skills again. Remember, these will only affect Hexeblood versions, so tip of the skill gets forward guard, that's a good choice. Spiteful Soul gets stiffness, Sundering Roar gets super armor, Savage Decree gets forward guard, Tectonic Slam gets super armor, which is a very nice choice for protected movement, and Aerial Burst gets stiffness on the first hit and knockdown on the second, my personal choice if you're going for PvP. Now let's talk about PvE. I made a very rough infinite combo that has full protection. Now I say very rough, I've only played the class for about 3 hours or so there's a lot more to learn, but you would engage with Storm Maul or Hex Tectonic Slam into Doombringer, into Aerial Burst, into Dragon Tectonic Slam, cancelled into Savage Decree, cancelled into Spiteful Soul, dash Sundering Roar into Extinction Flow, and then repeat. Now every other combo rotation, you simply use Extinction Flow instead of Sundering Roar. Like I said, very basic. This is of course for zones that require longer combos, but if you're grinding low AP zones, I found that staying mostly in Hexeblood form for movement and using some select skills like Doombringer and Extinction from Dragonblood form was the best. Now skill points wise, for just Awakening and the passives, you're going to need 1456 skill points, not bad at all. Now, if you want every single skill in Pre-Awakening and Awakening, you're gonna need 2,241 skill points. So what do I think about Awakening? It's an interesting theme. I like its PvE performance compared to Succession. It feels really good to play. In the limited scuffed PvP against other scuffed players, Awakening seems decent there. I don't think she's going to be as strong as Succession spec in Node Wars, simply because Succession just does more damage outright, and you have slow immune in Succession, which you'll lose in Awakening. Your PA is still there, of course, and your pre-awakened kit is good, but it doesn't seem designed to utilize the pre-awakened kit fully with Awakening. There's no way to go back into Awakening from pre-awakening other than C-swap as far as I can tell, but let me know if I'm wrong on that. But overall, I really am enjoying this class. I'll start working on a more comprehensive guide video for PvE, but as always, keep in mind, things can and probably will change next week when the class gets on live servers. I don't think we'll get fundamental changes, but I think damage changes could happen. You never know what else can change. That's it from me. Let me know what you think about Drakania Awakening in the comments. We have a giveaway happening for Drakania Awakening launch in the Discord, so check that out. And as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.